Hello, today I'm going to tell you about my practice routine that's been happening over lockdown and how I structure it, what I do. I'll intersperse some clips from today's practice session that I've been doing as I'm talking about it. I'll show you some of the little things that I've been doing today. Please subscribe to the channel, like the video if you want to, comment in as well. I'll always try and interact as much as possible. I'm going to start taking this YouTube thing a bit more seriously. Hello, today I wanted to talk to you a little bit about practicing and about practice regimes and just tell you a little bit about what I've been doing over lockdown to put the work in, to try and get better, to try and improve as much as I can. This lockdown's been terrible for every musician, obviously. I know a lot of people are struggling to find the motivation to pick up their instruments. A lot of people have had to get other jobs. It's a difficult time to be a musician or anyone in any of the creative industries, any of the arts. It's horrible. But I think you've got to try your hardest to find some positives in this and find some things that you can do to carry on working on your craft and getting better. Now for me, practice is really important. It's a really important part of all of my life. I've tried to have a structured practice regime for as long as I can remember. Even when I was at college, I was practicing an insane amount. I was trying to get in as much time as I could. As you get older, you get a lot more responsibilities. It's difficult to practice, but now I try my hardest to get in at least 2 hours every single day. That's what I try and do. I know a lot of people can't do that, but for me, this is my job. I'm a professional drummer, I'm a professional musician, so I need to try and be at the top of my game. Try and get in a minimum of 2 hours every day. Over lockdown, I've been doing it differently than I normally would, and I wanted to just share it with you, share how I've been practicing. So for me, practice gives me structure in my life. It gives me something to focus on every single day. If you've had a bad day, you know the next day I can get up and I've got something to work towards. It gives me set goals that I can work towards to improve myself. It's really good for your mental health. If you have structure like this, if you've seen like people like Tyson Fury who talk about it, you see it a lot with athletes where they say they're only happy when they're at the gym, when they've got, you know, something to focus on, something to work towards. I think it's the same for musicians. You know, we're quite social creatures, so we spend a lot of time together, we'll make a lot of friends in music, but it's also important to have that time on your own. Drummers call it the woodshed, in the woodshed, just trying to get better and improve how good you are on your instrument. Makes you play better. Like, practice makes you play better. It's not rocket science. The more you practice, the better you get. Simple. And when you're playing better, other musicians notice it, your bandmates notice it. So take this time during all these lockdowns and these times where you can't work as much to improve. And all the musicians that you play with will definitely notice the difference when they see you again. It's really important. And achievement as well. It gives you a massive sense of achievement if you practice every day. You feel better. I know I do. If I come here in the morning, get my couple of hours in, all is right with the world. And then even if I don't do anything else for the rest of the day, I know that I've achieved something and I've done something decent and I can be happy with myself. Now this practice routine works really well for me because it works towards all my goals and everything that I want to achieve in music and as a professional drummer and as a professional musician. It might not be for everyone. You might have a different system that works for you, which is great. I've tried out loads of different ways of practicing. I've read books on it. I think like all musicians who are really, really serious about their craft, I've looked up loads and loads of things on it. I've spent a lot of time trying to figure out the best ways to practice and the most effective ways of practicing. And this way just works for me right now. So my goals, I want to be well-rounded. I want to be able to play lots of different styles. I want to be very good at reading. I want to have a high level of sight reading and be able to read a variety of drum charts. I want to be technically proficient so that whatever musical situation I'm put into, I'm able to play and hold my own. I might not be amazing at that style of music, but I can at least give it a go and be able to try it. I want to be versatile. My jobs, one week I'll be playing in a musical theatre, one week I'll be playing in a hard rock band, the next week it might be an instrumental metal band, and then a wedding and function band. So I need to be able to play loads of different styles. I need to be able to play loads of different volumes, different size drum kits. I need to be versatile on the instrument, and my knowledge base has to be wide. I know a lot of drummers specialise in one thing. You get a really good metal drummer or an amazing jazz drummer, or you know, they specialise in their style that they want to work towards, but for me it's never been about that. I've wanted to be as versatile as possible, and I want to be a good teacher. I always wanted to teach. That was my big goal. Even when I went to college, I did all my dissertation on teaching and how to effectively teach. So I don't want to be put into a position where if I get a student that comes here and is massively into metal, I've got to be able to play double bass to a decent level. If I get a drummer that comes here and loves the drummers of James Brown, I've got to have a good knowledge of funk. And likewise, if I get someone here that just loves reggae or drum and bass, specialist styles, I want to be able to play that as well. I don't want to be in a situation where a student asks me a question and I can't answer it or be able to play it, basically. So that's what I try and do. Try and be as versatile and as well-rounded as possible, and practicing this way definitely does that. It'll make me a better player and a better teacher. And the other thing about me is I'm an avid book collector, drum book collector. I've got a really good library of drum books here at the studio. Just like my snare drum collection, my book collection is even more impressive. One day I'll do a video on it and show you all the books I have, but I have drum books from the newest, most modern, cool ones to some really, really old ones. Most of the classics, anything you'd want to work through, I've probably got it here, to be honest. There's some that I haven't got that are always on my list. There's always more coming out that I want, but I've got a really decent library of drum books, so I want to play them all. So a lot of my practice time is spent with books, trying to practice through them. So that might be different to a lot of people as well. But for me, books give you structure, and it helps me practice. If I have something focused to work towards rather than noodling, but you'll see a part of my practice is spent noodling, but not all of it. That's a mistake a lot of drummers make, or a lot of musicians make when they go to practice. They end up playing rather than practicing. Playing is just when you sit down and play something. And don't get me wrong, that can be part of your practice routine. It's really important to be able to just improvise and play, but you don't want to be doing that all the time. And that's something I'm guilty of. I think a lot of musicians are. You jump on the kit, you want to have fun and just play the first thing that comes into your head, or the last lick that you've learned, or something like that. And before you know it, 2 hours have gone and you've learned nothing, you've practiced nothing, you've just been playing. So yeah, drum books is another big thing for me that might be different to how a lot of people practice. Okay, so onto my actual practice schedule now. So the way I like to practice is I split my practice time up into 6 20-minute periods. And this has worked for me for years. I find that 2 hours of effective practice is much better than 8 hours of not structured. You know, if you have structure in your practice routine, I think that you practice a lot more effectively, you practice a lot more different things, you can go through a lot of different topics rather than just, you know, spending hours and hours and hours just messing about and not having a structured practice routine. I didn't word that very well, but I hope it makes sense. 2 hours of structured practice is better than 8 hours of unstructured practice, is what I was trying to say. So the way I split it up, like I said, 6 20-minute periods, and each of those periods have a set thing that I want to work on in that time. And there is a lot of crossover, which I'll explain about later. So number 1 is warm up, which is usually rudiments, normally on a practice pad. So for this, I'll work on books like Stick Control by George Lawrence Stone, absolute classic. And this is just to warm the hands up. At the minute, I'm coming in early and doing it early in the morning. Sometimes I'll do it in the afternoon if it's not locked down, but because we're in lockdown and I've got this beautiful studio here where I can play when I want, I've found it really good to get here early, and I like to get a couple of hours in before I even start my day, and then I can do anything. But I'll talk more about that later. So anyway, number 1 is warm up and rudiments. So Stick Control, George Lawrence Stone, absolute classic book. If you haven't got it, definitely get it, it's a must have. And then I do other stuff like Jeff Fry's Freestyle Rudiments, which is a really great book. It works on a lot of rudiments that a lot of us English players don't get to see, to be honest, because we don't come from the, you know, marching bands that they have in America. A lot of us English players don't have as good rudiments as them, I would say. I know I definitely didn't, so that's one thing that I'm really working on. And then I might work on something like the Alan Dawson Rudimental Ritual. I'm a big fan of that. Playing through that really warms you up, works through all the rudiments. Or at the minute, the thing that I've been working on right now is a book called Encyclopedia Rudimentica, which is the craziest book title in the history of the world. But it just goes through loads of different rudiments and then loads of hybrid rudiments, like I say, that a lot of us players don't get to see. So that's really cool. So part 1, warm up and rudiments. Now for part 2 of my practice routine, I do coordination exercises. Now this will be different on drum set than it is on most other instruments, but for drums you have to have a really good level of coordination to be proficient on the instrument and be able to play a lot of the things you want to play. So coordination is a must if you're a drummer. It's something that's overlooked quite a lot, I would say, unless you really delve deep and start studying it with some of the books that I'm about to mention. But it's something that you should try and focus on. It really helps. Coordination is important. If you want to be able to play the things that you have in your head, you have to have the dexterity to do it. So coordination books that I would work through would be something like The New Breed by Gary Chester, which is my favourite drum book of all time. You go into a meditative state with it and it's amazing. Something like Syncopation by Ted Reed, another classic that everyone should have. And then I'll go through things like Art of Bop Drumming or Studio Jazz Cookbook, which is a lot of comping exercises. Been working on my jazz playing a little bit, and it's hard coordination, but it's all 4-way coordination when you get deep into it. So that's something I've been working on a lot. And at my practice time currently, the book that I'm working through there is Peter Magadini book. I think that's how you say his name. I might check that. Polysymbol Time, which is ridiculously hard. It causes me so much stress, but it's so good when you get it. When you play a bar of it, you feel like you've climbed Everest. It's absolutely amazing. So yeah, like I say, I use a lot of books in my practice routine, which some people might not. But if you do work through The New Breed, you'll see the differences massively. It's more for advanced players, don't get me wrong. But once you work through it, you won't regret it. It's completely worth it. It works on all areas and it makes you a lot better. Part 3, sight reading. So as I said at the start, I want to be quite well rounded, and being able to read to a high level is something that I have to do for what I do. Playing a few orchestras, a few concert bands, or like orchestra pits, playing theatre shows. So you've got to be able to read to a high level. If you're depping on things, you've got to just jump in and be able to read to a really high standard. So that's something that I work on quite a lot. So sight reading things, sometimes I'll just play a musical, like a few musical numbers, because I've got a lot of musical charts from shows I've done in the past and things like that. Or sometimes I'll play big band charts, which is something I'm working on a lot. As I said, I'm trying to get my jazz playing up, which is a completely different kettle of fish, different style of reading. Sometimes I'll just read snare drum things, like marching band parts. I've got quite a few books on that, like old style books. I've got lots of different marches in, or snare drum pieces, like the Wilcoxon book, for instance. And then sometimes I'll do things like, just looking at my list here, Gordon Goodwin. His books are amazing. Yeah, I've listed some of the books down because my memory would not remember them at all. So the Gordon Goodwin books are incredible for advanced players. Steve Horton's anthology book, I was talking to my friend about that the other day. Amazing book if you want to get your reading chops up, if you want to get better at it. It's really good. And then the Dave Hassel books as well. They're really, really good. Graded Course for Drum Kit 1 and 2. I'm just getting back into them because I've just got the CDs. Because I'd lost my CDs for ages. Just got the tracks off somebody. Thank you. If you watch this, you probably don't. And then, what else? Tommy Igoe books are pretty decent. More for my students, but I'll sometimes play through them as well. Quite good. So yeah, sight reading, just bang a chart up, play through it. If I make a mistake, play through it again. Until I don't make any mistakes.
1, 2, 2, 2.
Part 4 of the practice session is technique. So this is just really open-ended, working on anything I want to work on technique-wise. So this can be anything from linear phrasing, like linear grooves. It can be drum and bass grooves. It can be just learning a Steve Gadd lick or learning a cool lick I've seen on YouTube. Just working on technique things. Technique to me, I'm not talking about sitting there on a practice pad with wrist movements, because I do that in the first part of the warm-up with the rudiments and things like that. So it's more like working on a very specific technique, working on a different style, working on set patterns. So it might be like I'm working on some Latin phrases that I'm not very good at. It might be that I'll work on some Philly Joe Jones licks. It might, you know, it could be anything. But working on technique, something that I really want to work on that isn't just a technical exercise, it's something that's quite musical. That's how I see the technique portion of my practice. Part 5, this is the fun bit. After I've done all that hard work, number 5, this is improvisation. So this can be anything. It can be just putting songs on, especially live albums. I like doing that. Putting a song on and jamming along to it, and just playing what I would play. Not specifically learning parts, just jamming along, just having fun. And I'll probably try and work in some of this stuff that I've done in the previous different periods that I've been practicing. I'll try and add some of that in. So if I've been working on linear grooves, I'll try and add that into the improvisation part and just start getting it flowing rather than as a technical exercise. Which I do that in that part of the practice anyway, but it's just nice to do it where you're not consciously thinking too much, where you haven't got the music in front of you. It could be just putting a loop on. I've been doing that quite a lot lately. Just putting a loop on, playing along, seeing what happens there, and just having fun with it. And just having a laugh. Or it can just be playing a drum solo. Sometimes I'll just sit at the drums, start an ostinato with my feet, just start playing, see what happens, see what comes out, just have as much fun as possible. that's my little reward for all the hard work that I've done in all the previous parts. And lastly, number 6 is music theory. Now, music theory for me as a drummer won't be the same as for most people, because I just really focus on drum set. I don't play other instruments to a high level. I really try and focus on playing the drum set to the best of my ability. So theory there for me would be like transcribing other drummers' parts. I do that quite a lot. It could be writing lessons and making me think about ways to explain what I'm playing better and ways to express what I'm playing better. Could be music theory, like at the minute I'm trying to learn a little bit of piano to be able to compose some of my own loops a little bit better. Things like that. So it might be like normal theory. At the minute for me it's been a lot of recording, so working on different mic placements, messing about with that and seeing what I can come up with. Obviously 20 minutes isn't long for this bit, but it does normally bleed into longer into the day. It doesn't just last 20 minutes and then that's it. And that can be the same with all of these. If I'm really into something, it can carry on and I can be here longer. This 2-hour rule, it's not really a rule, it's just the minimum that I want to do. So yeah, that's normally what I'm doing. At the minute it's a lot of recording, a lot of reading about recording, a lot of messing about with mixing and just trying to get better at that, because that's what I'm working on at the minute. Now what I've told you about here, this is just the minimum that I will do. And currently at the minute, this is going to sound mad, but I get up at 5 to 6 every morning. Well, I leave my house at 6:15. Okay, so first job, leave early, get in the car by 6:15. Let's see that. Oh, you will. 6:16. Running late, mate, running late. I get to the studio around 6:30, sometimes it's a little bit later, but usually around 6:30, and I normally start my practice at 6:40. Like I spend a little bit of time getting everything ready, getting my books in the right place so I don't have to move around too much, get comfortable, and then I usually start between 6:30 and 6:40. So I get set up and get started. I like to be started by 6:40, and I set 6 alarms, each with 20-minute increments. So starts at 6:40, 7, 7:20, 7:40, 8, 8:20, 8:40. Do the 2 hours as I've just said. And currently I'm not doing the theory part inside the 2 hours because I've been doing loads of recording and mixing at home. So at the minute I've just been using that extra time to do any of the other things that I'm enjoying. I'll do more of that. So at the minute it could be that I've been working on a technique and I want to do more of that, so that's what I'll do. And this is 7 days a week. I do it every single day, and it normally goes on longer than 2 hours if I'm honest. I normally get here for 6:30 and I normally don't leave till 9, so it's a minimum of between 2 and 2.5 hours. But as long as I get that 2 hours in, I'm happy. I don't want to sit here and say I do 8 hours every day when I clearly don't. Sorry, my phone just went. So yeah, minimum of 2 hours, usually 2.5, and this is focused practice. It's not like messing about. I've got a metronome going, you know, I've got all the music there. It's very serious. I try and get as better as I can. And then there's more throughout the day. That's not all I do. If I'm recording on top of that, that'll be extra. If I'm doing some other practice, that'll be extra. Sometimes I come here and practice even more, or I'll stay later if I'm really into it. At the minute I've been doing loads of mixing and obviously editing videos at home. That's all extra. That's not counted in this time. It's 2 hours of focused practice every single day, and it feels amazing. Right, I hope this has helped some of you get some ideas about how you can practice, and let me know in the comments what you do to practice. Cheers. And then for the rest of the day I can do fun things like baking a cake.